everybody. My name is Leslie Pyle, and I am the founder of HireMyMom.com. Today, I'm so excited to have someone who knows all things LinkedIn because I know I can use the help, and I'm sure you can too. So, Joyce Foistel is here with me today, and she's going to share with us about a little more about her and her business.
Well, thanks ever so much, Leslie. I'm so excited to be on this program, having heard so many good things about your company for many years. Well, I am Joyce Foistel. Boomer's Social Media Tutor is my company. You might guess by the first word, because that refers to baby boomers,
Yeah.
that my specialty is working with people a little older than you, Leslie, unless you're pretty well preserved or something. But I would say 50 and up roughly, often even in their 60s. So I can help people of all ages, but we all need a niche, don't we?
Right.
Like your niche is moms at home, right?
Right.
So here's the way I do is I simply help people with their LinkedIn, their profiles, the user experience, and also a bit with Facebook business pages too.
Mm-hmm.
And
Wow.
these are business owners primarily,
Mm-hmm.
but also job seekers, especially nowadays because of COVID.
Right. Yeah. It's a kind of changed things for both of us a little bit with the
Yeah.
more people moving to remote work. Okay, so tell us what led you to finally finding this professional calling in social media at such a young age, right?
Yeah, I like it. I was 61 years old. So that was 11 years ago. It was this very month, March
Okay.
2010. It's my favorite story to tell outside of how I met my husband, but that would be a different kind of podcast maybe. So at any rate, so I was working at this sort of a boutique college, I'll call it. You know, we focused on financial planning professionals all around the country and provided professional development for them. Well, picture yourselves, folks. 11 years ago, 2010, were you on Facebook? Maybe. LinkedIn? Maybe. You might not have been using it. Twitter? Possibly. Well, guess what? That's when our marketing department said to the leadership of our virtual, I should say, was a distance education type of college to these financial planning people. You know what? Let's get on social media. So we in the enrollment department, really, let's be honest, sales, inside sales, we weren't asked, we were told, talk up this social media. They gave us a little PowerPoint. What is social media? So we understood, those of us not involved. Luckily, I had been on Facebook and LinkedIn for just over a year. So I kind of knew enough to explain it on a very basic level to our students and potential students. Well, off I went to do that. And they even gave us a little incentive financially to do this. How about that? So me, who had never led a sales team in my whole life, actually month after month was leader of the pack on this little incentive team, the best one at 61 years old, older than everybody else on my team, in explaining social media and convincing these students of ours to like our Facebook page and follow us on Twitter and join the LinkedIn group. So my manager, age 35, 61, is kind of impressed actually. And one day he said to me in March 2010, you know, Joyce, I've been thinking, since you're so good at getting our students engaged with our social media, have you ever thought of helping other people, especially in your baby boomer age group, to understand social media like you do? I was so impressed. He thought I understood it well enough to help other people. And he goes, yeah, think about it. So that was the seed, Leslie, that was planted in my head. I worked 3 more years. And then when I retired from the sales career, I retired into my business. I had a website up, I was blogging, you know, I had a platform sort of, you know, so how about that? So these 8 years that we've had since 2013 have been the best 8 years of my life. Here I am at 72, just rocking it every day. So how about that?
Yes, you're doing great. I mean, I looked at your LinkedIn profile and I was like, this lady probably has more followers and more referrals than anybody that I've seen. You have, I think it was over 10,000 followers or
Yep.
yeah,
Yeah, it
followers.
is. There's over 10,000 followers and about 9,000 connections. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it was 230 so referrals that people have
Yeah, I
given you.
do. I have a lot. Yeah. Well, it's probably because
Yeah,
I make my clients write them for me.
that's good. I mean, that's impressive
Well, the
because
reason, yeah, thank you. Well, I've done a lot of pro bono training because of COVID. So then people say, can I do something for you, Joyce, since you don't want to take my money? I said, well, you could write me a nice recommendation. So that helps. Early on, when I was practicing in my early years, I wouldn't take money either because I didn't know if I was any good at it.
Right.
And then sometimes when I'm with someone and they get kind of hesitant about asking somebody else for a recommendation, I'll say, listen, why don't you just write one for me? is that okay? I says, yeah, let's do it right now. Then you'll get an idea that is so easy peasy. Like, oh
Right.
yeah, that was easy. I think I can ask somebody else. So
And
yeah,
it takes 5 minutes,
I
but
know.
people are either afraid to ask or afraid to do it. And I think it's,
Yeah,
it's like the Google reviews or the site jabber reviews, typically you only get them if somebody's upset with you. So I've learned when someone says how much they love your service, would you please write us a review? Because you need to balance out those people that occasionally get upset for one reason or another.
you are so right, Leslie. People, I think sometimes maybe women especially, oh, you know, just this thing, this whole, but they when people compliment you, you want to really honor that. And you say, hey, in our world, yes, there's a public out there. It would be nice to know, to have the
Yes.
social proof, as it's called. Yeah.
Right. Yes, absolutely. Okay, so I think you kind of shared a little bit on this, but let's see if you have anything else to add. It's how did you become familiar enough with LinkedIn and Facebook so that you could help other business owners and job seekers?
Well, a lot of this is really self-taught. When I had this inspiration back 11 years ago, I got books because I'm older, so I read
Mhm.
books. And so that helped me a lot. I read a number of books. I took classes myself, just short-term classes, like 3 hours here, 3 hours there. I got a certificate from
Mhm.
a local adult education center. And I started following, the influencers. So I started reading blogs from people that were further along with LinkedIn and Facebook than
Mhm.
I was. I also was a member for several years of the Colorado Women in Social Media. That was super
Mhm.
helpful because then any of those questions that stumped me, I could go to our private Facebook group and ask
Mhm.
those questions. So I had a lot of resources around me that I sought out or kind of came to me.
Mhm. And that's how you become an expert. You just dove in on all levels to learn
Mhm.
everything you could learn.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
right. And there's people that know more than me. What's interesting, I find, Leslie, is there can be even different approaches. My LinkedIn coach suggested I reconfigure my whole about section to be this really very personal story about me. Then a different, I wouldn't call him my LinkedIn coach. I would call him another guy who knows a lot about LinkedIn, proposed another approach, which I'm like, oh, I don't want to do it exactly that way, but I think I'm going to blend what he said and what she
Mhm.
said, and then go back more to what I had before and not
Mhm.
be quite so much about me, because I think it needs to be, there should be a better balance and more about the reader in retrospect. So I
Mhm.
say you need to keep open. And also, you need to know. I just wrote a blog post actually about my voice. So I was reading these posts and they sounded like really fancy dancy and very cool and kind of marketing. And I think maybe I should write that way. I'm like, no, I don't know enough about marketing to write those kind of posts. You know what I was going to be originally, Leslie? A teacher. And you know what?
Ah.
Even though I never really taught for just briefly in one school year is all it was,
Mhm.
my mind is hardwired as a teacher. And
Ah.
like there's an engineer, an accountant, people that
Right.
kind of when your original training just kind of seeps through you for the rest of your life. And so if
Mhm.
you ever read my social media posts, you'll hear that teacher voice. I mean, it's a friendly, helpful, like you want to be in a room with this teacher, not your mean teacher voice, just to clarify, because there's all kinds of teachers. So I just want to say that I think we need to really sift and winnow till we can get to our authentic voice. And we know it
Yes.
when we see it.
Right. Yeah, I would agree with that too. So how has your training as an educator and background as a Toastmaster, that's another interesting thing, contributed to your success as a social media tutor and trainer?
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you asked me that question. Well, let's start with the teacher since we were just talking about it.
Mhm.
First off, when you're a teacher, you know classroom management, right?
Mhm.
So, and it really blends with the Toastmaster. So I'll talk about one. So when I'm teaching a class, I know how to pace myself, how to develop the curriculum for it, how to
Mhm.
bring out and say to other people who have questions. Well, we haven't heard from you, Leslie. Have you had any questions here? Anything I can help you with? So there's a patience to a teacher.
Mhm.
There's an ability to translate technical information into understandable information.
Right.
All those attributes of a teacher, I think, really served me well,
Mhm.
especially with that older 60 and up crowd. Because just last night, I had a lady who was just really, we're talking basic, really
Mhm.
struggling with just the logistics and the infrastructure of LinkedIn. And she'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. No, it's okay. It's okay. I'd say, you know what? She's so new to it. So
Yeah.
I think that's where the teacher comes in. Then the Toastmasters, that's, by the way, if folks don't know, a leadership and a speaking, of course, organization. And there I've learned that I can meet any audience, anywhere, anytime, and feel comfortable, especially now since so much is occurring virtually, like this interview on Zoom.
Right.
So I can, when I'm physically in a space, I get there early. If I can find the outlets, get all my equipment plugged in, I'm good to go. And meet people, have an energy about you, and know how to pace yourself. But the difference between, of course, teaching and public speaking is with teaching, you see these same kids all the time, right? With public speaking, it's like you got to get that, know that new audience right away.
Right.
So those are just some ways in which I feel I've used those two backgrounds. They've really served me well in what I do for a business.
Yes. And I could see the Toastmaster, the speaking part so easily, so clearly, because you're so at ease and you make your audience at ease. When you're at ease, your audience is at ease.
Exactly. And these podcasts I've been doing on my quest in 21 to do loads of podcasts are, just to use a technical term, extemporaneous speaking. Sometimes people confuse extemporaneous speaking with impromptu speaking. Now, impromptu speaking we do in Toastmasters all the time because we have this little component part called table topics, sort of a cute name. And you ask a question you had not thought about at all, like, what's the worst vacation you've ever taken? Well, you can probably dredge up that in your mind, but you had to think for a second, right? Whereas someone asks the kind of questions you're asking me, these are things that I've answered before. So I haven't scripted out my answers, yet I can answer them fairly articulately because in Toastmasters, you also get that feel for the extemporaneous speaking.
Yeah, it's super helpful. Okay, so what are some common misconceptions about using LinkedIn? What is it not?
Oh yeah, you're like, you want to set me up for the little joke line I told you before. Okay, here's what lately I've been comparing LinkedIn. I say LinkedIn is not Tinder. Okay, let's think about Tinder. Okay, I have not used Tinder ever. I have no plans. Married 49 years, April Fool's Day, FYI. Plan to stick with him. And yeah, after he's gone, I don't know. I think that's one lovely husband in a lifetime. That's fine with me. At any rate, so okay, here's the deal. Tinder, swipe, got your guy, gal, you're off Tinder. You think, okay, I'm good. Well, here's the problem. I think people approach LinkedIn like it's Tinder because you'll see this. Ever notice in a LinkedIn profile, it's all populated, all below in the experience section, all these lovely details. The person gets their job. They don't even tell you what the heck they're doing at their new job, Leslie. You just know they got a job. And then no more, nothing out of them, not a peep.
And they sign out.
And they sign out. Yeah, they're like, oh, I'm done with LinkedIn. I'm good. I got what I wanted. Okay, here's a simple way to reframe it. Don't think of LinkedIn as what's in it for you. Think of it, how can you help another person? Okay, so even as a job seeker, okay, remember how helpful it was when you found people on LinkedIn and then maybe they introduced you to someone that led you to a job? So you could be that person, right? You could be there and you could be active and even put up a post here and there about what you're doing, or at a minimum, just be friendly and sociable and go to the little notification section, congratulate someone for their new job or 5 years at their job, that type of thing. So there's a sociability factor in LinkedIn that I think is really overlooked.
Yes. Okay, so I'm going to shift gears just a tiny bit. So our audience is small business owners, entrepreneurs, and then we've got our job seekers, primarily moms, not 100%. So if you had one tip for the small business owner, obviously they're on LinkedIn because they're typically looking for more clients for their business.
Right.
I don't know that they use it to source contractors and employees as much as bigger companies. And then on the other side, you have the moms looking for work. And I don't think many of them realize that if I'm going to hire, I'm going to check LinkedIn and read your bio, your info there. And I think a lot of moms are forgetting that. So what 2 tips for each audience would you give?
Okay, let's start with the business owners. So the business owners is in their profile. We were talking about this. I want your personality to come through. See, when you own a business, sometimes you start thinking of your profile kind of like your copy on your website, and you go all third person. When I'll get to the job seekers in a minute. So it's about you. Here's the way to business owners, think this through. Your LinkedIn profile is about you in the context of your business, and yet you probably didn't just have this business for all your life. Especially if you're old like me, right? So then you got to tell us, well, what did you do before? What was going on in your life that led you to create this business, right? So that would be in your about section. And
Yeah.
also
Because
be sure, go
I'm sorry,
ahead.
don't you kind of want them to feel like they know you a little bit, because it's the know, like, trust. If I know
Yeah.
you, then I'm going to like you, and then I'm going to trust you.
Leslie, we could like talk about this all day long, you and me. I want to come to Texas and hang out and have a glass of wine with you, because you're getting exactly to my point. When I read
Okay.
through that about section, I want to be so interested in that person, the know, even the like is coming through, maybe not quite the
Right.
trust yet, but I want like, oh, she's so interesting. Let's
Mhm.
Zoom together at least, if nothing else, but
Right.
let's have a virtual glass of wine. I don't know,
Yes.
but it does, your heart just warms. You're right,
Mhm.
because of that person and their style. Exactly. And in the profile headline, here's a tip. The default of LinkedIn, it's like,
Mhm.
for me, before it would be like founder, boomer social media tutor. Well, who gives a rip? Okay, so I started my company, you did yours. That's impressive, especially your company. But at any rate, you want to have search terms up there. You want to talk about who you serve and kind of what you're about, maybe a tagline in that profile that's right. I mean, the headline
Mhm.
right
The
under your
headline. Mhm.
picture. So I think that's for truth. And then also the featured section is so important for the business owners. We've only had that like since COVID started, roughly. It was about March, April of last year. And now you could feature a landing page on your website, some kind of other, virtual, some other visual that really would grab
Yeah.
people's attention, depending on the nature of your business. Could be a picture, could be a video, a lot
Mhm.
of things. It could be featuring a post you put up on LinkedIn.
Right. Yeah.
Okay,
Excellent.
now we go to the other group.
Job
Okay, the job
seekers.
seekers. All right, so that's where, having been a home mom for a long time, you got to think about, okay, how am I going to present myself? I used to be some sort of a corporate bigwig, whatever, and then I'm home with my kids.
Mhm.
Okay, I got to think this through. First off, you want to make sure that your experience section is complete, not just titles, but what you did. Just take your resume, kind of like copy and paste a bit.
Mhm.
Then, as a home mom, maybe you were like me. Maybe you were president of the PTA. Maybe you were involved in your community in some other way. Maybe you were a local elected official, maybe not as a mom, but it could have been. I was.
Mhm.
Something like that. You were a leader in some kind of cause. Don't get too political, but I mean, something that matters to you. So, at
Right.
any rate, listen up, Leslie. These people, they can put these as jobs. I'm
Yeah.
serious. If you were president of PTA, I think that's legitimately a lot of work, right?
It's a
So you could
job.
list it
You don't
as
get a
a job.
paycheck, but it's
You don't get
work.
a paycheck, but there's skills in there,
Mhm.
leadership skills, organizing skills, all of
Yes.
that. So you want to populate that in that way. So,
Mhm.
and then you can move things around. If you have 2 or 3 current, maybe part-time gig, volunteer gig, those little 4 lines in there, you can move
Mhm.
those up and down within the experience section if you're currently doing them. And again, be
Mhm.
creative in your about section about, oh, I have a new client. Get this, she gave up a career in medicine to do Mary Kay. I'm not kidding you.
Oh, okay.
Believe it or not, she decided, this is back in the 80s, she's exactly my age. She's from Texas, went to UT in Austin. And when she came up here, went to residency, medical school, got married, had kids, she thought, I want to be a home mom. And
Mhm.
then she was bored out of her mind. Can you imagine how bright she is, as a doctor, as sitting there with the
Yes.
kids? They're in school. Maybe she found Mary Kay and her life just changed dramatically.
Oh,
So you can
wow.
include the network marketing business. There you go. There's a
Yes.
whole nother one.
Yes. Yeah, I remember someone telling me that, because I had a full year where I was an ambassador of goodwill for the Rotary Foundation. And it wasn't a
Perfect.
paying gig, but it was something where it provided a lot of skills like public speaking, and networking and those sorts of things. So that's exactly
Right.
right. That's something that's valuable.
Oh yeah, those service clubs, they're perfect to include.
Hmm. Wonderful. Okay, so what are some common misconceptions about using LinkedIn?
Well, we've kind of talked about some of these already, kind of that set it up and wait for the phone to ring thing.
Yes.
So I
Hmm.
think that is probably one of the biggest misconceptions. I think that I think people
You probably
will go ahead.
don't, isn't it, like you were just saying, you don't just set your profile up and leave. You need to engage and comment and post and share. Oh, this person, you should connect with them because this is what they do. You would compliment what they do and be
Right.
that helpful person, because then when, oh, someone needs social media, Joyce, because she's been
Yeah.
so helpful to me.
Yeah, exactly. Kind of right. You're creating your reputation, your brand, your style. The other thought I had, because we've already talked a little bit about, but I'll repeat that, about going to the notifications, little bell icon, and looking
Hmm.
for people's happy news, the new jobs, all of
Yeah.
that. So I think people some people know intuitively to do that, but a lot of people don't think of it.
Mhm.
Another thing I was thinking about that's been told to me, if I go to your post and you're well known, right? So then you put this post up and I could share that over to sort of to my people, so to speak.
Mhm.
However, I think better yet, I mean, I could do both or either, is when I comment on your post, I think people don't think you can do it just like Facebook. You're going to comment or Instagram, and then that gives energy to the post. That
Yes.
is not just like, oh, nice job, Leslie. Say something. Your point of
Mhm.
view, as it's called. Say, Leslie, that post of yours was really fascinating. There was one more thing I thought of that I'd like to add that is certainly made a difference for me. So I don't in any way diminish you, but I add something of value. So that way, other people comment, they'll see my comment.
Yes.
So it puts me in the stream of your people, which is a good thing. A,
Mhm.
and B, it helps you to elevate, that post. So maybe more and more people will see it. Does that make
Right.
sense?
Yes,
So
absolutely. Because, you'll see that Joyce commented on Tom over here, and I don't even know who Tom is, but because you commented, it shows up in my feed. I don't know if people realize that if they're not using LinkedIn a
yeah,
lot.
exactly. And the other thing is to tag people. Again,
Mhm.
just like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. When I put up a post, say I do decide to share your post. So then I put the little @ sign, Leslie Pyle. So then that then will also, like you said, that will ping you that I've done it. That will
Mhm.
ping your people. So people always are asking, why don't, how do I get more engagement on my posts? I'll say,
Mhm.
you want to tag people, not unknowingly so though. Because here's a
Right.
mistake I've seen occasionally done. People will tag like 30 people.
Mhm.
I'm serious. And they think, oh, you all should come to such and such event. And they'll tag like so many people. And for the
Right.
life of me, I can't see a functionality to remove that tag. That's easy to do in Facebook, right?
Mhm.
But not that I can find in LinkedIn. So I
Yeah.
think be selective. Now, here's a creative use of a tag. A realtor I know, very successful. He put a post up the other day. It was like, had a really great week. Here are my 2 wins. What are your wins this week? And he tagged 4 people.
Nice. I love that
You
idea.
like that? I was so
Uh-huh.
lucky to be one of those. So then I'm in this kind of mini stream of
Yes.
posts that then these other the comments these other people put up. And I'm like, oh,
Yes.
Kenan, you are good. He is
Yeah.
really good.
That's a great one. I
I
like
loved it.
that. Yeah. Okay, so one last question I have for
Sure.
you. What are some of the most essential things that people can do on their LinkedIn account, say each week?
I think if they went into their LinkedIn account, let's say twice a week, once a week, even that is better than like not that often. So you're
Yeah.
going into your account. What is the first thing you want to do? See who wants to connect with you.
Hmm.
I've seen lists, really long lists, like, well, I was just thinking, I was just going to wait. I haven't decided. Well, make up your mind already.
Yeah.
So you go in and you decide, ignore, accept. And people should always know, of course, when you ignore someone, Facebook doesn't tell them, don't worry.
Right.
They will tell them if you accept them. What I'll do for those little gray areas, I will actually message them. And you can do this by going to the sort of interior page by clicking on like manage or
Uh-huh.
select 2 of 5 or something. You get into this interior page and now you're messaging and saying, oh, well, Leslie, thanks so much for the invite. What prompted you to reach out to me?
Hmm.
See, I'm from Wisconsin, upper Midwest. We're friendly, we're direct.
Yeah. I
And
like
so
it.
I use my Wisconsin voice. So yeah, what prompted you to reach out to me? Then I wait and see. So
Hmm.
sometimes they never respond. Unless there's some sort of hot shot, I think, well, maybe it'd be beneficial. I'll connect. Then
Hmm.
I'll just I'll wait for maybe up to a week and then I'll just let them go. If they don't
Right.
respond at all. And
Yeah.
then depending on their response, I might not either.
Yeah.
So at any rate, so that's a go through your pending advice.
Hmm.
Secondly, look at your messages. Oh, for Christ's sake, that's a Wisconsin term too. At any rate, you go to look at the messages. There could be something really important in there and it just
Hmm.
slipped through. So
Right.
I want to go into too much detail, but if in your settings, you do make sure your email is pinged
Hmm.
when you get a message, maybe it's a person wanting to hire you for your services, whatever it might
Right.
be. So do check your messages and then go over to notifications and just kind of go through those like I already described. I mean, if you just those 3 things, then ideally, okay, one more thing, 2 more things, comment, 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 please, or
Hmm.
put up a post or share a post, just get something up there.
Yes.
That would help. And, share, it's not as hard as you think. The functionality of LinkedIn is almost exactly the same as Facebook. And most people are on Facebook who are using LinkedIn.
Yes. Yeah. Those are some great tips. So hopefully people, if they are not doing them, they'll start doing them now.
I hope so.
So Joyce, I'm sure you're going to have people that want to know more. How can they even take LinkedIn further? So how can people connect with you?
I think the simplest way is simply to go to my website, probably because my name is so tricky in the spelling and the pronunciation. So if you go to Boomers, BOOMERS, social media tutor, TUTOR.com, you'll see me there. You see videos, you'll see contact me, all of that jazz. So I think that's the best way. Then also they could subscribe to my newsletter. They could download an ebook that I wrote, 9 Ways to Stand Out on LinkedIn. There's another. They can do all that from my website. That's why I like to direct them there.
Perfect. And we will link that below our video here. So if somebody's driving or listening while they're not having anything to write with, they'll be able to get that on the video
Perfect.
as well. All right, Joyce, well, thank you so much. You've been a wealth of information and a lot of fun.
Thank you. That's just 2 wonderful things to hear, my MO. Oh, Leslie, it's an honor to meet you in person, so to speak, and just engage with you. I am so grateful to be on your program.
Thank you.